All right. So I was gonna do some things with the next boss fight, and then I decided, you know what, we're actually like not gonna do that because I say so, effectively. I have been debating whether I want to include some sort of like perfect dodge mechanic in the game, and I do think that it will spice up combat a little bit more, which will probably be a good thing if there is like a little bit of timing to like your dodges. Um, because we have the magic system now, and that's going to be like expanded on a little bit more, obviously. Um, but that still costs MP to do. So that's only a temporary or a partial fix to the whole I want to not only ever like press the X button until until the credits roll, right? And I think having a either staggering mechanic or a perfect dodge mechanic, and I think I'm gonna go perfect dodge for one very specific and easy reason. Uh, because if I do staggering, every enemy is going to need to have a staggering animation as well. If I do perfect dodge, that's not necessary. So that's effectively the reason that I'm going to go for like a perfect dodge. So what we're going to do is set up something. I'm not entirely sure how we're going to set this up quite yet. We'll figure this out as we go. But we'll set something up. I think my audio might be a little low. Hold on. I will boost that a little bit more. One moment. I'll put my gain up to something like this. Seems a little bit better, probably, right? So, as I was saying, we'll go into like enemies. We'll probably just like actually get through that here somewhere. Basic demon, and here we have a couple of like attack animations, right? So you've got the basic attack and the revenge attack. I don't know if the revenge attack is really going to be like perfectly dodgeable in the same way. Maybe it will, maybe it won't be, but let's say we have this basic attack. What I want to have happen here is if you dodge like starting here, but before here, so that's in a couple of frames of gameplay, I want you to just normally dodge, and then at the end of the dodge I want to have a period where time slows down for the entire world and your character speeds up comparatively at the same time. So let's say that the entire world goes down to 10% speed and the character goes up to like 150% speed, so effectively it would be at 15 times speed instead of 1.5 to compensate for the world thing. We'll take a look into how to actually set that up in a moment. But that's the basic idea. So first and foremost, I need to make something that like probably just flips a ball, to be like 100% honest with you. That's on like the enemy base class, I want to say. So maybe we can just do that on BP enemy base, I guess. Would we want to do that in C++? Let's just do it on here for now. We can always change it around if we need to. Let's call it attack climax or something. Weird like that. And can we just make a new notify state from here? No, we need to do that from over here. So we make a notify state. BP and state attack climax, and this will just have a begin and an end. I don't know what this return value like actually does, but it really doesn't matter that much. So we get the owner. of this, which will be an actor. We cast that to the BP base enemy, or enemy base, whatever we called it, yes. And we just set attack climax to be true. I don't know what this return value is used for. Received notify begin. I guess it did receive that, so let's set that just always to true, I guess. We might as well set this to false if we fail the cast, and then notify and. This is just receive notified and, right? Yeah, so we just do the same thing here, but we just set this back to being false. Then when we dodge, we're just going to check this only on the... This is an interesting question, right? So here we already run up against a potential, not issue, but a potential choice that we will have to make. Because what if there's like 3 enemies around us all doing this attack? This needs to link up to there. Do we want any of those enemies to be able to trigger this effect, or are we going to only check the closest enemy, the enemy that our lock-on system is focused on at that particular moment? I kind of feel like we should probably check all of the enemies around us within a certain radius. And that radius can be relatively small. But if we are locked onto like one enemy, even if it's a soft lock on, and another enemy attacks us and we try to get away from that, I think that should still give you the effect, is what I'm thinking. So I'll just add it into this attack for now. So within the actual attacking portion of the animation, we might slim down the trigger window for this. Obviously that's why we make this a state, so that we can easily tweak it. So this will be the attack climax, and you need to dash before he actually hits the ground. So within this window of about 1/10 of a second, so at 60 frames per second, that's about 6 frames worth. That might just be a little too tight as is. We might actually need to expand that a little bit. It will flip that ball. So then we go into the player's dash, which is in here surely somewhere, right? Gameplay abilities, where the hell would that be? Player dash. And here we don't just end ability after 0.2 seconds again. First and foremost, we need to, at the very start, there's a lot happening here as is. After the ability commits, the first thing that we need to check is this even relevant? Is there any enemy near us? Near the avatar actor that has that ball active, right? So we sphere overlap actors, we get this location. Oh, actually, for anybody who hasn't seen the community post, I figured out how to do this, which is fantastic. And then the sphere radius, let's set that to 500 for now, and let's also, just to visualize that, draw debug sphere real quick, just to see what that's actually like. We'll set the segments to 25 or something like that. Duration to 5 seconds. Line color, set that to red, pink, same thing. And we're going to be filtering on object types. So, well, you need to give in an object type rather, which will just be pawns. So, with that, we might actually do this fairly easily. For each loop, we cast to BP enemy base, hook this up to the completed, And there we just kind of check the get attack climax. And if for any of these that is true, we just set a perfect dodge value to being true. That should be all there is to checking this in theory, but then at the very end here, instead of ending the ability like full stop, we need to hook all of this up to whatever happens at the end there. Which is, we're just going to do that with a custom event. Hold on, add custom event and dash. Because I don't want to be moving all those nodes around. This is enough of a mess as it is. So we end the dash, which is fantastic. And then we just check whether or not we had a perfect dodge. Because if we had a perfect dodge, we're going to do some other stuff. If we didn't, we're just going to end ability. And ability itself doesn't really have any code anymore in it, so we just straight up end it. But otherwise, we set global time dilation to, let's say, 10%. Now, one thing that I want to check, well, there's a couple of things that I need to check, actually, but the first thing that I need to check is there just a way for me to say, hey, this guy should not be affected by global time dilation? In this particular case, let's see, global time. No. So what we do instead is we just set this time dilation for him to like 15. So everything is going to slow down, but this thing is going to speed up by 15 times. Meaning that this is effectively going to set us to a time dilation of 1.5. So we'll be faster than we usually are, and everything else will be significantly slower than we usually are. Allowing us to absolutely like wreak havoc for, let's say, a certain amount of time. Now this is the next thing that I need to check. Do delay nodes work in like real time, or are they affected by time dilation? And I'm actually like so unsure about this, and I really just want to like check this, that I'm going to Google it. So Unreal delay affected by time dilation. I misspelled that. Yes, time dilation will affect all of your timers, delays, and I'm pretty sure it'll affect event tick as well. Okay, so this is just like not true. I know that much because it doesn't really affect event tick, because event tick is just something that happens every frame, so this is bullshit. But people do say that it affects other time-based nodes, so including delays, materials. Ticks will still happen at the same rate per real second. Not time dilated time seconds. Yeah, so that again makes sense because that's just your frame rate, man. So setting this to 0.2 will be a delay of like 2 whole seconds. So let's set this to, well, let's keep it at 0.2 just for right now. And then we'll set global time dilation back to 1. And we'll set the custom time dilation also back to 1 after that time. And then we'll end the ability. So we end ability. That's not what I wanted to do. So in theory, that should pretty much function like I want it to function now. So that'll be the end of the stream. Of course, it won't be. But if we just nail this, we need to add in that little like timing window to every relevant animation on every character, which is not that many, realistically speaking. I guess we can also implement something where it checks for like nearby bullets. Like if you're about to get hit by a bullet and you dash away, maybe we also want to be activating it. But aside from that, like everything back here doesn't like physically attack you, so that doesn't need any animations to be filled in. Which only effectively leaves us with these 4, which have like 2 or 3 animations each. At the very most, to deal with. So it won't be that much. I'm thinking, I feel like I have more enemies than this, but maybe not. Okay, let's test this, right? So I take my controller, I spawn a couple of these dudes. For some reason that, okay, so that's actually like a pretty big range. And that didn't seem to work, but maybe my timing was... Okay, my timing was actually like good there. But it straight up isn't letting me attack during this time. So, like, that's not ideal, to say the least. Why isn't it let me attack? Is it something about... It's got to be something about the time dilation, right? Oh, because I'm still... No, it's not about the time dilation. It's about... Oh, that's annoying. I think we want to set this up into its own ability. Because I explicitly block attacking during the dashing animation, and I can't reverse that because there's a whole bunch of like shit that goes wrong if you try to attack in the middle of a dash. There's a very small window for it, but like it kind of like messes everything up. So what we'll do instead is we'll just make a gameplay ability. See, still stuff goes wrong. We're good. Gameplay ability, perfect dodge. And that just activate ability just kind of like only does this, and then and ability after the end here. So in the player dash we'll just get our this one, put that in here, get ability system components, give ability and activate once, perfect dodge, and that should prevent this from being an issue, because now it is technically a different ability without any tags, so it shouldn't be blocking me from doing any of this. And it'll also be a little bit easier to like tweak this if I need to go back in the future and do anything with it, which is also nice. So now we should be able to... Yeah, so that actually kind of like immediately feels really pretty good. Obviously this needs to be a bunch... Man, that really feels good! It needs to be less overpowered than it is right now, I think, because... And it needs to be a visual effect, I think, as well. But the fact that you're also faster during it really like adds to the... Yeah, that really adds to it. I like that. So yeah, I think a nice little visual effect might also work, like something post-processing, like, I don't know. Let's just try something out. We can just make a... I'm just going to put it here. Perfect dodge PP. PP. Because we can just add a post-processor, yeah, volume within, well, it's not a volume, but we still can set it to unbound, right? Yeah, so now if we spawn this actor, it'll create this like post-process effect, essentially, I think. So we just go through and do stuff. It's going to be a little difficult to like go back and forth. So I guess what we actually do is we set it up in here and then just copy the stuff over. Really all I think I need is like a vignette. Can we just like make a vignette in the post process? That would be ideal. Vignette, yes, we can. If I can keep this pinned, please. Okay. Can we set this like the color of the vignette? Because I would like it to be like white. I think. It was like an image effect or something. Alright, so path tracing, no, film gray, no, rendering features maybe. Doesn't seem like it. Film, color grading, image effects. Oh, so okay, so it's literally only. I guess we can like sharpen. Like add some extra bloom, maybe? That could be a thing that we can do. Like maybe just like bloom, intensity. I don't think the bloom really like does much, to be honest with you, with like the cell shading added to it as well. Maybe the threshold just needs to be lower. A chromatic aberration, that is a good one. Yeah, that's it. That's what we're going for, man. That's it. I like that. So let's just copy over these settings from this post-processing fluid, and then we probably like need to like ease that in and out a little bit. Is what I'm thinking. So we can just like get this post-process volume, set up all this stuff, save it, and now if I drag in a new one, it should already have all these settings, right? Hopefully. It does not. It does, in fact, not have all those settings already. That is annoying. That is really annoying. Which means that we have to set it up in here. So I'm going to just put this over on my other monitor for a moment, which is going to block chat. Now it's going to block OBS because I want to be able to see chat if anybody comes in, which so far has not been happening. But we, it was in film, right? I think color grading maybe, no, lens, chromatic aberration. The effect can be like pretty intense, I think. And then we had in color grading. I already forget. Oh, there we have image effects. I also want the vignette still. And then we added the bloom, which maybe we should be like using a different bloom method as well. Well, I prefer the standard, I think. Yeah, I definitely prefer standard. So is there like a general like intensity for the post process that we can animate? Because that would be ideal. Let's just see. Intensity, like alpha maybe? This has to be a Googleable question. I have this set up in a level blueprint somewhere. I am like 99% sure. Well, I'm just going to Google it because otherwise I have to like go back and forth between levels. Unreal, animate, post-process, intensity. Like, I want to do it as a whole. Not everyone individually, because that is really annoying. I know I can do them individually. For now, what we'll do is we'll just spawn it in and then delete it. Does this thing even have like a spawn actor? It does, okay, thank fuck. We'll just spawn it at the transform for the... Fucking love this. For that, and we'll call this perfect dodge post process, return value, promote it to a variable, TP effects. And before the anti ability, we can do it after as well, it doesn't really matter. We just destroy. That should give us a hint as to like something is happening as well, because that's not like super clear at the moment. When we dodge, so we need some visual feedback for that stuff. Oh yeah, and that range needs to be made like a bunch smaller. That's the wrong button that I pressed. And I think I just missed my window. So that's... There we go. So yeah, that is fantastic. And I honestly like don't even think it necessarily needs to have like a fade in. It just like cutting in is more than fine. And it does need to be like fairly... Am I crazy or does it have like a black frame in there? No. So maybe the fade out could do with a little bit of animation, admittedly, but for the most part, I do think that that kind of does what it needs to do. It would be ideal if I can just have one value on the post-process volume that like does everything. Would it maybe be possible to just multiply that with... Nah, that would have been too nice. Like if we break this, we have a bunch of stuff. So we would need to animate the bloom intensity back to 0, the chromatic aberration back to 0, and the vignette back to 0. That's actually all that we do. So maybe I should just not be bitching so much. Yeah, let's make a quick timeline for that. Which custom event and set settings. I guess we also like get settings actually, because we want to promote it to a variable. On begin play, this is just the default settings, just for interpolation reasons. You'll see what I mean in a moment. So we set the settings for which we like make, and we just like bloom intensity, vignette intensity, and we had chromatic aberration intensity. So we're gonna take these three values and over a period of like 0.2 seconds, actually 0.2 seconds, we're going to be animating those from their full value to a value of 0. So time will be 0.2, value will be 0, time will be 0, value will be 1. This will be the alpha, and then we're just going to like loop all of these. And then when this is finished, we'll just destroy actor here instead. So perfect dodge, destroy actor, we're going to get rid of. We'll just end is what it's called, very descriptive, just end, so that it can take care of itself. And we'll take these settings, start settings, and we will break. And we'll get the chromatic aberration and all that kind of stuff. So chromatic aberration, vignette, intensity, and then we also had the bloom intensity. So that into there. This goes into all three of these. And then I have to imagine that these are like lined up in the same order, right? That surely. Let's see if it fades out now. It would be nice if it just is a little smoother than it is right now. I think the start just being instantaneous is actually kind of good because that gives you, okay, an instant like bit of feedback of hey, something is up. Okay, so something's a little weird there. I don't know what's going on there. I'm guessing it's something to do with this not being like right. So let's just copy over these values. What the hell am I even doing? Like this is just going to be a value of 5. I need to figure out which this is. It's intensity. Oh, chromatic aberration. So that's for that one. So this is 5 chromatic aberration. We're going to set that to just 4 because it's easy to work with whole numbers. And then the loop for the vignette intensity. Let's just set that to 0.8. That should work a little bit better. It might not, I don't know. That's why we're trying this stuff out. It's actually like kind of difficult to get these at. So why? Okay, so now at this point you're just like not. Okay, there we go. So it's doing something. Something is weird. So I don't think that this is working very well. Is really what we're getting at. Unless I'm editing the wrong properties, which is a possibility. But I just think that it's kind of messed up. See, this is why we just need a like global value on this thing. I honestly cannot believe that it doesn't exist. Like Unreal, post-process, global intensity. Is that not a thing? That should 1000% just be a thing. It's honestly kind of weird that that's not a thing. But it seems to not be a thing, so... blend weight. There we go. That must be it. So this just goes from 1 to 0 then, right? And at the end we destroy the actor. Like surely that must... Surely that must do what I think it does. Because what else would blend weight even be? Blend weight might have to do with specifically post-process materials and not the actual settings. But I have to like imagine that it... So it's kind of weird the way it works, but that... So we start at a value of 1, we end at a value of 0. Maybe we just need to end at a value of 0.1. The last little bit can have a little bit of cut, but maybe it's just freaking out because I'm setting it to 0 for some reason. I kind of doubt that that's the issue, but you know, you never know. Like, it's honestly more distracting that it's like flickering in that way. Let's just put one back into the world and look at the blend weight, right? We have blend weight 0, and if we animate it down, that seems to just smoothly do it. Not gonna lie. So why does it not do it smoothly when we do it through code, is the question. Let's delay destroying it for like a second as well. Oh, that's, oh no, that's definitely, no, don't do that. Okay, that's just, it's even fucking weirder because it only blends out the vignette. Does it? Or is the vignette just so weak that we can't see it at 0.1, but the rest is so strong that we can see it at 0.1? Or also I need to dodge out of the way, that's like the entire point here. Oh dude, just attack me, thank you. I'm gonna just in the tick event, I'm just gonna print out its blend weight. From the post process. Jet blend weights. Because I feel like it just jumps back up to 1 before it gets destroyed, which would be odd. So that's 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Then it goes down, and then it goes back to 1. Exactly. So why would it do that? Why would it do that? What a question. What does this alpha print on every single one of these? Because it might, at the final frame, do something weird there. I accidentally summoned some of the wrong stuff. Oh well, what you gonna do? Now that just goes all the way down to 0. So the blend weight seems to correct itself after it's done being updated. So I don't know what's like up with that. Yeah, so at the very end there it goes back to 1. No. It loops the wrong way around, does it? Hold on. Now we have the wrong guys like triggered on me, which is not great. And then I didn't actually dodge. Holy shit, just like let me do my thing. What does it do? So yeah, it counts up. So it just loops the wrong way around. Loop from 1 to 0. Value is 1. Oh no, that actually does make sense. Hold on, it needs to... No, that doesn't make sense, but I'm going to reverse it anyway and see if that fixes it. Even if I think it doesn't make sense, if it fixes it, it fixes it, right? Yeah, so that fixes it. Perfect. Okay, no more complaints. All is good in the world. I'll get rid of this tick as well. So, we have a post-processing effect. We have our gameplay affecting, which is good. Now, I kind of feel like this should also like increase damage, but that might be a little too overpowered. But I hear me out here, right? Because what we could do is when we start this ability for perfect dodge, we could just apply like gameplay, or we get gameplay ability, get ability system, get ability, my god, how difficult can it be? Get ability system components, and then apply gameplay effect to self. And we just make a gameplay effect that... Can we do something that increases like maybe like piercing damage only, or maybe like non-piercing damage only? I don't think I have like any setup for that, to be honest. So yeah, we just have to at that point make a gameplay effect for a gameplay effects. Gameplay effects multiply damage, which just gets a modifier for the by the way, guys, I have my chat on a different monitor, so I'm going to be a little bit worse at responding to the chat. But hello everybody, welcome for joining in. One of the best examples of perfect dodge, in my opinion, is in the Bayonetta games. That's a pretty good like call out to maybe like play around with. I've been playing YS, I don't know, I think it's pronounced YS, which has a very, it doesn't even like really have a very like strong perfect dodge, but it has like a perfect dodge ability where if you like dodge within a certain amount of time, enemies around you freeze and it lets you just like get a couple of hits in. And I've also reinstalled Final Fantasy 16 because I'm like, man, that game just like kind of does what I want to do, but better. So I'm like, this is maybe a good moment to start replaying that. I wanted to play that in like Final Fantasy mode on New Game Plus anyway at some point. And that also has a perfect dodge ability, so that's kind of like what I'm getting at here. So yeah, time dilation is just what it sounds like. It dilates the time. So if you set it to a lower number, everything in the wood slows down, and if you set it to a higher number, everything speeds up. And you have that on a global basis, so for the entire game, but also on a per actor basis. So you can say a specific actor is getting slowed down or sped up or whatever. So if you do both, slowing down the entire world but speeding up the player will stay relatively the same speed. In my case, it's actually getting a little bit faster, while the rest of the world slows down. So that really gets to the effect of being able to absolutely like hammer away at the enemies. I do have a specific one for piercing damage, so I guess I can just multiply the piercing damage. Which might be nice. Because that way, if you're like properly like dodging out of the way, you do kind of bypass the defense bar system, but that's like if you really like don't like doing that. This is like an extra reward for that, right? So I guess multiply, let's do additive, and then this is going to be an infinite duration policy. And we're going to multiply this by like, I don't know, 2.5. 2.5 seems fair. I'm going to say 2.5 seems fair. So multiply damage. I should probably call that multiply piercing damage at this point then. And now that I'm thinking about it, player dash. This also needs to be like a bunch smaller. Like 500 units is way too much. Let's like half that. Like 250. Also, I made a little like temporary model for the twin stick shooter thing that I made a video on. I was just using this model for that, and that was really goofy, so I just made one for the thumbnail. I figured, you know, that's a good temporary asset anyway. Oh, it's actually not it's not removing either, which is not ideal. So multiplied damage at the end should also remove gameplay effects. We can just do that on end ability if you wanted to, but let's just pull that through like this. Otherwise, it's going to infinitely multiply our damage, which is obviously maybe not exactly what we want. God damn it, it's actually like pretty precise. Yeah, so it does notably more piercing damage. I think I'm also going to make it increase like normal damage. Maybe. Just like normal like strength. I'll just multiply that by 2. You're only doing it for like a second anyway. Or like 2 seconds at the moment, I think. But I think that the time that we have for it is actually like pretty good. My god, even I can't. So yeah, it absolutely destroys something when it doesn't have any defense. But when it does have defense, well, it also kind of destroys it, to be honest with you. So maybe that's a little too overpowered the way we have it now, but... Yeah, I think that as it is, it was pretty good with just the increased defense. You're also like attacking faster to begin with, so... I'm gonna get rid of the extra normal strength. I don't think that this is a great idea, so we're gonna get rid of that. And then what I'm gonna do instead is this perfect dodge. gameplay ability, I'm just going to set the delay to be a little longer. So it'll be 3.5 seconds. So that's pretty significant. And I'm going to set this to being twice as fast as usual. So you'll be dealing a lot of damage if you actually can be bothered to. And if you can nail the timing as well. I don't know, that still feels like you're maybe doing a bit too much. Maybe 3.5 seconds is too long. I think 3.5 seconds might be a bit too long. This is one of those things that I can endlessly tinker away at, right? So maybe just 3 seconds. You could also make extra damage on the next strike after the perfect dodge. I mean, that would require some pretty major changes to how the gameplay effects get used as it is, though. So I would prefer not to do that. Or add some effect to it. For example, armor penetration. You could also make an enemy that has insane armor and low HP. So the only way to effectively kill them. So I already have piercing damage, right? So piercing damage is just a thing that you can level up. So seeing as how this is multiplicative, it's multiplying it by 2.5. The effectiveness of this is also going to go up as you increase piercing damage. So right now we're only doing 1 HP of piercing damage, which is going to get changed to 2.5. But if your piercing damage is up to 10, this is only going to be doing 25 damage, which is, instead of 1.5 extra damage, you're doing 15 extra damage. So I think this at low level is, at the moment, seems like it maybe doesn't do that much. But multiplying this piercing damage, I think, is going to be pretty powerful if you actually spec into it. Is the idea. I don't know, maybe. I kind of feel like it should more or less let you do 1 or 2 combos. I think 2 combos is probably for the basic sword. For the other weapons, I'm obviously not sure yet how they're going to mostly differ in terms of all that. I'm actually failing my own. There we go. It effectively lets you get out 2 entire combos, which I think is pretty good. There's also the fact that I just entirely skipped past. Oh no, it's just I also added a quick time quick kill system, which I took from Nier Automata, because I really like that. So every time you attack an enemy, if it's below a certain amount of HP, it does a probability check to see if it should spawn in a quick time event to let you instant kill them. And the lower they are, the closer they are to 0 HP, the bigger that chance is. And I think at 1 HP, that chance is 20% or something. But at the HP's threshold, which I think is 1/3 HP, the chance is 2%. And obviously that doesn't happen with bosses. So yeah, those values we can tweak endlessly, and I'm sure that we will in the future. But for now, that pretty much does it. So let's go look at the other animations that we have, which surely are stored somewhere sensible, in like an animations folder, right? Or maybe not. If you're trying to make it rewarding to perfect dodge for offense, you can make it restore MP. It kind of already does that because every time you land a physical like melee hit, you get MP back. So the fact that you can get off like 2 free combos without any danger also will restore MP. So yeah. But maybe reducing like MP cost would be a nice one for spells as well. If you prefer to do that, if you like spec high into magic, maybe that would be nice. That might be worthwhile like thinking about. Because if somebody like levels up mostly into like their magic stats, it's probably good to still have them be able to like make use of this. Then again, if you're like super into magic, the whole idea is that that's mostly going to be long range, so you're not going to be that close to the enemies to be dodging them. But then again, if you go out of your way to dodge those enemies to like create these effects, that might be like there's some sides to that, but I like the idea. All right, let's say within this part of the motion, okay, just like we can just like copy this over, right? Making MP scarce is also an option. Yeah, but it's like actually not though. Because the whole point of MP, first and foremost, your dodge relies on MP. Your dodge costs MP to do. So I don't want to make MP scarce. Number two is like 90% of the reason that we have MP, aside from just dodging and being like a semi-stamina bar in some way, in that like regard, is to like vary up the gameplay a little bit for combat, so that you can use magic. So if we like make MP scarce, suddenly you barely can use magic anymore. That can loop back into this perfect dodge thing, rewarding you with MP though. But again, the whole thing with a lot of the magic spells is that are going to be slightly like mid to long range. So I feel like it would be a little bit awkward to make something that is necessarily like a close-up thing. But then again, no, not really, because the way you restore MP right now is by hitting enemies. So that's also a close-up thing. So it would kind of it would essentially like boil down to the same thing, right? It's the risk of getting closer for the reward of getting MP back so that you can like do damage or heal from a slightly like larger, safer range. So that would probably work decently well with how we have things already. But the whole idea is that you like have MP that will run out. And if we're taking like the Kingdom Hearts series as an example, because that's what I like base a good amount of these design decisions on for like combat. I think Kingdom Hearts 1 does something really interesting. It does what I do, or I do what they do, I should say. Compared to like the entirety of the rest of the Kingdom Hearts series, where from Kingdom Hearts 2 onward, you just have an MP bar, and if you deplete it, it just goes into a cooldown before it comes back as a full MP bar. In Kingdom Hearts 1, your MP restores by dealing physical hits. So you can use magic from a distance, but then if you want to restock on that magic, you either need to use items, or you need to put yourself in harm's way. And since part of magic is the ability to heal, that creates a way more interesting back and forth than Kingdom Hearts 2 and 3, which is just, hey, I'm in danger, which means I'm going to be running away until I have MP, and then heal, and then I can put myself in danger again, which doesn't create a like constant like back and forth interaction with particularly boss fights, but also like in individual mob fights, I guess. How about a skill you can learn as you level up that that has detriments? If you focus on melee skills, you can get a skill that reduces. I guess I can do that. I don't really know if I want to differentiate in that way, though, to be honest. Because it's not like we're building a skill tree of any sort. All we're doing is we have stats that can be leveled up, and all the abilities are craftable, like obtainable items that you use in your inventory to like choose what 4 spells or items to take into any given situation. In which like context, it's a lot like Souls, more Souls-like than other games that I take inspiration from. But I don't really know about like adding in like almost like semi-skill tree elements because that's pretty good. I'll get back to that thought in a moment. Hold on. Because I don't like super vibe with the rest of how everything is like set up at the moment. But maybe giving like an MP, holy shit. Maybe giving an MP benefit to the perfect dodge is really interesting. But then again, I think the fact that it allows you to easily hit enemies in slowdown in and of itself is an MP benefit. So maybe like MP regeneration should just also scale with, but I think it does. I think your MP, I would have to like check in the code, but I think the MP generation also it's just I think it just generates like 1% of your MP per successful hit or something like that. So the more MP you have, the more you also regenerate per hit. In like absolute terms, that is. Yeah, I'm not adding equipment to the game. There's like enough moving parts as is. I don't really need equipment to be added to that as well. So there's not going to be any equipment. The only equipment that there is going to be is like a cycle of a couple of weapons that unlock through like boss fights. But like no other equipment system or anything. Please tell me that this one has the animations. Nope. Mostly because if I'm going to be like adding equipment, what the fuck? Where is my model? Oh, it's all the way down here somewhere. Yeah, there we go. Mostly if I add equipment, what will end up happening is I need to insert another notify track. Is at that point I need to like make enough equipment to make that feature like actually worthwhile existing to begin with, which then adds like another like 20 or 30 items at least that I need to make, which need to have like art to go with them and so on and so forth and whatever. While I'm already like making all these enemies and making all these like other abilities and stuff. Where's the best place to learn Unreal C++? Well, you can learn it right here on this channel, or at least like get started with learning it. Aside from that, ChatGPT is a thing that you could use. Specifically for Unreal, it hallucinates a lot of stuff. It gets a lot of stuff wrong. So if you're going to be using ChatGPT, you need to have like at least a little bit more base knowledge of C++ to like spot those issues. But once you do, it can be helpful to like get some finer points down. And aside from that, like once you have the basics of anything down, it's just like doing stuff and running into problems and solving those problems and getting better that way, really. So, like there's other places like GameDev.tv has like a couple of courses that I at some point looked at as well, which were helpful. But I would argue that most of the content that I have here on the channel, which is free, pretty much covers the same bases with less waste of time. And after that, you should just like start trying things out and fucking things up and learning from that. You can remove the floor. That's actually a very good point. Yeah, that is a thing that it can do. I also don't know why this model specifically has this issue. But these are all set up now, so it's not a problem anymore. And here we have, I think, just like 3 more animations. Where's the animations? Animations. There we go. Yeah, so the appear attack, which is right here. Let's make this a little like wider to be acceptable. If you've been using Blueprint for 2 years, you probably are in a pretty good spot to like get working with C++. There's like, you'll likely understand like a lot of the like actual programming principles. At that point, it's just learning the syntax, which is just like, and a few like other things about like meta flags and stuff for like exposing variables. But yeah, at that point you just need someone to tell you like, hey, this is how you declare a variable and a function, and this is what like pointers are and how they like get used and how they differ from references. And you need to get used to the fact that you can't just like type in half the name of a node and get Unreal like popping up with a bunch of suggestions. Your IDE will to a certain extent do that, but not to the same extent that like searching for a node does. And C++ does have the like downside compared to a node. When you create a node in Unreal and it has like a bunch of pins, you can accidentally like discover stuff. Unreal and C++, you might have the issue that you like don't know exactly like the signature for a function, which can be a fucking pain in the ass. But that's just a matter of like looking into the documentation, because even though the documentation is kind of shit at telling you what everything does, at least documentation exists for the names and signatures of every function effectively in the engine that you're going to be using. So you can just like look those up. And a lot of functions will have a couple of different like overloads, which means that they have like a version with only one parameter and a version with like maybe 2 or 3 different parameters and maybe a version with like 5 parameters. And that's one of those things that it's easy to like overlook. So just like referencing that documentation as kind of like shit as it is at times, also quite important. Why your screen looking dull, dude? Is it? Oh yeah, it is. Good point. Let me fix that real quick. It's because it's an HDR screen, and the YouTube or OBS like doesn't do HDR. Well, YouTube does HDR, but it's a pain in the ass. So all that I need to do is HDR tone mapping, presumably. That doesn't really do anything, man. Yeah, that's kind of fucked. I'll just do it manually. Color correction. Hello? Not doing shit. Okay, that's weird. It's just not applying these filters for some reason. Why is that? Oh, force SDR. There we go. So that should look a little bit more pleasing to the eye. Okay, so attack animations. About optimization for C++ though, it's not as big a deal as you think it is. Blueprint does have a little bit of overhead, obviously. Like there's two sides to that. Number one is Blueprint, as far as I understand, like does function like in a runtime, which means that like C++ code gets compiled down to like actual machine code, which just runs better, obviously. But like if you work in like Godot or Unity or GameMaker, those are all like based on languages that also perform in a runtime, like C#. And those aren't like necessarily unoptimized games at all. So like that little bit of overhead that you get from that is not that big a deal. The bigger deal is the like Blueprint reflection, which is that effectively every like function call from Blueprint to C++, which at the end of the day is a lot of functions because like all the base functions from the engine, of course, exist in C++. So all of those are like reflection-based calls. Have a static amount of like processing overhead, which I think is like, don't quote me on this, but I think it's like 3 microseconds or something. So that does add up if you're like looping through a loop, which does like 3 or 4 like C++ function calls from Blueprint, like 1,000 times in a frame. That does add up to like maybe a couple extra milliseconds of like performance hit that you don't have if you just do all that natively in C++. And there's things like, I believe the animation blueprint in particular, as far as I've heard, performs like this side of things. Of course, not the animation graph itself, but the event graph apparently performs significantly better in C++ than it does on Blueprint. But the differences aren't as big as you might think. Of course, there still is a difference. Like, I'm not going to say that Blueprint has no performance impact whatsoever, because obviously it does. But mostly those are theoretical things that you're not really going to run into too much unless you're like actively testing for them. Like, you'll notice that if you look people up online testing this type of stuff, what they do is they do run like a loop with like 50,000 iterations, which does like make those very minuscule differences about, well, 50,000 times bigger, right? At which point they start becoming like noticeable and more measurable, and they actually like might impact like the moment-to-moment game feel. But you're never gonna like actually iterate over 50,000 things within one frame. And if you do, like, that's probably a deeper issue with the code to begin with. But far be it from me to like discourage anybody from learning C++. I like working in C++, and it does allow you to like set up things. What did we do earlier in the stream? Somewhere in here, I do believe. I am very chaotic today. Yeah, so like one of these things that I got annoyed by last week, right, is I really want to have, when you drag an actor into a vector, to just automatically get that actor's location. Took me a little like figuring out how to set this up in C++, but this is actually fairly easy to set up in C++. I have a video showing how I did this exactly tomorrow. I can just show you right now in C++ real quick. But you can't do that in Blueprint. Just flat out making that little like workflow optimization, just not possible in Blueprint to automatically insert that custom little extra function. At least not as far as I've been able to find. But I make this as a little like plugin with a couple of functions in it. So we have these automatic cast modes, right? So you give it a bunch of like meta flags, and then you need to give it like a very specific name of conversion from one type to another, and then you can just like return something as that function, and that just like with all that set up automatically now lets me drag actors into either positions, or I think I also have one somewhere in the perfect dodge itself into like transforms, so it picks things out as transform or the rotation. Like, it does that automatically now for me, which is really nice, because how often do you get an actor's location where you have like the actor and the location pin, and you like drag over it, you get actor location, and then you have to like drag it into somewhere else. That's tedious. If you do that like 20 times a day, just being able to do this is so much smoother. That kind of stuff, you kind of do need to like know a little bit of C++ to set up those little like workflow improvements, and those do make your life a lot easier working in Blueprint. So I would encourage as many people as possible to like at least give Blueprint, or at least give C++ a bit of a try, because you'll find that if you like know a bit about programming, and if you've been doing Blueprint for a while, you'll know a bit about programming. That's not that bad, and it does generally like open you up to be able to like, if you think, hey, I want this, sometimes it's still a pain in the ass and it's not worth doing, but sometimes you figure out like, hey, that's a thing that I can just do now. For some reason, these guys are refusing to be aggressive against me, so that's okay. I didn't get it in time, god damn it. So yeah, the timing for these is actually like pretty... It does feel really good though when you do it. I don't know why my shit is like lagging the fuck out suddenly. Might be worth looking into. At this point, there's also like a thing that like just mindlessly juggling enemies is maybe not even optimal anymore. Like just letting enemies get off an attack so you can do this to them, might be a better strategy in some cases than just juggling them. Which might mean that it's a little too powerful. But I also kind of like it, so I don't know. I don't know, man. Either way, let's get rid of the debug sphere because we don't really need that anymore. I do think it'll probably be nice to also add this in for bullets. So if you dodge out of the way of a bullet, within like a very small certain distance before it hits you, it'll also trigger this effect maybe. But that will be a very thin distance because I don't want that to be like too easy to do. So yeah, we have the what the hell enemy to spawn? Is this a spawn? Oh, it's a spawn. Fucking hell! I keep forgetting that these aren't the actual enemies. These are things that just spawn the enemies for testing purposes. Yeah, so this will have a column shots. All that I need here is I need this to. I think it's in the animation blueprint, probably, right? Yeah, spider projectile. What does that inherit from? Just projectile base. I guess we'll do that, yeah. We can always put in some kind of like bool on the projectile, whether or not they can trigger this. Because, again, I think in general, I just don't want bosses to be able to trigger this state at all. Maybe. And some of the bosses are going to have projectile attacks, obviously, so I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest with you. Maybe it's just okay. Maybe it's not that big a deal. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'm thinking that I recorded like the entire next course that I made, which is only going to be 5 videos long for a change. It's about an hour and a half for a dialogue system with state trees, and I recorded that yesterday, which means that I recorded entirely with the like HDR issue for the screen probably. So it's going to look dull all the way through, but I can color correct that in post, so it's actually not that big a deal now. Yeah, no, never mind. Gameplay abilities. Zombie, Ghost, Reaper, multiply damage, perfect dodge, player dash. So I guess after we overlap actors with this, we just overlap actors again, but with a smaller radius, right? So we just do this like within 100 units. And then I need to know the collision settings that I have for this thingamajig. It blocks, well, projectile. That, you know what, that adds up. That makes sense, yeah. So let's set this to projectile. And I guess if this is just like, we don't even need to loop over this. Right, we just check the length of this. And if this length is greater than 0, we clearly just dodged away from a projectile very close to us. At which point we perfect dodge. And otherwise we just move on. So I'll just use this get location as well. Yeah, that should pretty much be it. The only issue is that this could potentially be abusable if you spawn in a projectile of your own and then dodge. So that might be something to like loop back on at some point. But for now, let's ignore that possibility and just try to get shot. and dodge away. 100 units turns out is like actually really close. Yeah, so there's just straight up. I think straight up isn't working. Sphere debug. That location, radius 100. Maybe radius 100 is just too small. Radius 100 seems pretty good. Also, let's make that last a tiny bit longer than one frame, like just 1 second. Yeah, I think 100 might just be a little too small. But let's see. No, I think it's just not working. You know what? For troubleshooting purposes, it might be a not horrible idea to just set this to 1000 first and foremost. Yeah, it's straight up. They're damaging each other. That's not supposed to happen. So it straight up doesn't set that as perfect dodge. So there's always like we print this, the length for these is always going to be 0, right? So that length is 0. That makes sense. But if we do this, yeah, length is 0. So why would that be the case? Does this one specifically have something weird set up to it? It's supposed to like block projectile, so it should be like picked up by that, right? Overlaps with everything else. Oh, in itself is world dynamic. That's just me being an idiot. It's a mistake that I make with annoying regularity, is mixing up channel responses and what channel they actually exist on. So, yeah, that is... Everything is now world dynamic, so we do need to... like do some looping for this. Hold on. We can't just simply check the length. We need to... for each loop. I guess for each loop would break, because if we just find one, we don't need to loop over the rest. Cast to base bullets. BP base bullet surely has projectile base. That's it. That's what we're casting to. So yeah, if we make that, I guess we break and we just like move on. This is a very ugly blueprint graph at this point. So yeah, this is 1000 is a lot. So let's set this back to, let's make it 150, because 100 did seem a little bit on the narrow side. But I also don't want this to be too easy. This feels like it might be a little bit on the easy side, not gonna lie. You know what? I think Never mind. I was going to say, I think that the damage stuff, like the HP bar ticking down, would be nice if that doesn't happen until like the slow-mo time ends, but I don't think I have to do anything to accomplish that. I think it already does that. You know what? It's effectively just you have to dodge into the bullet to make this work, which I guess makes a certain amount of sense. But even then, I missed it there. Oh yeah, that's right. And I did get hit there. I also made it so that if you kill an enemy, it just picks the next closest enemy to lock onto. So like you can very much like go from juggling one enemy to the next. Which I think just makes the game as a whole a little bit smoother, a little bit nicer. And we're absolutely obliterating these fools. But this guy just doesn't seem interested in attacking me for some reason, which is a little bit weird. One has to wonder if that is because the list of already attacking enemies is full. Nope, that's definitely not the reason. It's just something else in his behavior. It's a little busy visually, right? It's a little bit information overload when there's a billion particles spawning on the screen like at once due to so many hits. It does feel really good to do. Like again, I know that I've said that a bunch of times already, but it really does feel super good. Like, it doesn't quite feel as good as it does. One of the inspirations for this also, like, especially like the kind of the look and the feel that I want to recreate, is one of the like implants in Cyberpunk, because I played Cyberpunk a couple of weeks ago. I had a lot of fun with it. And one of the implants there is effectively just like almost freezing time. It's slowing time, but it's slowing time to a ridiculous degree for a certain amount of time, which lets you just obliterate everything around you. And it feels really good to do that. This obviously is a little different. It's a shorter period of time, and the difference is not that huge in your speed versus the enemy speed. Like, the enemies actually almost freeze in place in Cyberpunk. At least with like the highest tier upgrade. I didn't figure out that that upgrade existed until I finished the game. So presumably either the time is shorter on lower level tech, or the slowdown effect is less strong. I don't know. But that's kind of what I'm going for here as well. And I think we kind of like got it. Like, not 100%. But I would say good enough. We got it well enough. It lets you absolutely go to town on these fuckers, and that's exactly the point. So now imagine that we have a experience orb, real quick, right? Which I think I just have like blueprint experience orb. There we go. And that XP orb gives us like 15,000 XP. I don't know, is that 150,000? It's a lot of XP. We pick it up, it was 150,000. It's fantastic. And we go into my stats screen. I don't know why it does this. This is weird. We go into my stats screen, right? So we go and upgrade piercing damage, like a whole bunch. So now we're doing Well, we're always doing 15. Apparently we can't upgrade past 15. That's just a curve issue, I assume. But yeah, so that means that we're doing 15 piercing damage anytime we just attack, which improves all that a lot. But since that is, as I said, multiplicative, when we activate our die you motherfucker mode, yeah, right, it really makes you go kind of crazy with it. And just effectively melt all the enemies around you, more or less just ignoring their defense, which is the point. Also, anybody who isn't in the Discord hasn't seen this yet, I finally added in Coyote Time. I actually added in what I call reverse Coyote Time as well, which is I can jump before I actually hit the ground. It's a little generous at the moment, maybe a little too generous. But since I'm not making a platform game, I think making it a bit too generous is better than not making it generous enough. So that also definitely helps. I don't know, does Coyote Time actually work if you just come off of a ladder? It doesn't, because I don't have a double jump, obviously. That makes sense. Yeah, no, that does make sense. So yeah, I think we pretty much got our improved dodge mechanic working. It's not going to need to work on the shaman, I don't think, for the most part, because that already has a perfect dodge requirement for one of his abilities, and it should also just straight up work on these projectiles, right? So if I just dodge through this, get fucked. I guess you can't dash during this, which makes sense because the dash is actually based on real-time delay. So maybe we need to do something about that, because it would be kind of cool to be able to dash during this as well. But I guess it technically still has the why can't I dash? Oh, because the dash has a cooldown. Oh, that's going to be a pain to deal with. Never mind. The dash has a cooldown, which obviously is done in real world time, so you can't dash during the slowdown, because I would have to get rid of the cooldown, or dynamically change the dash ability to one without cooldown while you're in this state. But that is so inviting exploits that I'm not even gonna bother. The dash already is exploitable, so I don't think I need to give it any more power to be exploited. I don't think. There's one thing with this block tank that had me crashing before. I don't remember what it was, but it was certainly something to do with one of his abilities. I think it was when he shot. So when he shoots, do ability, tank shoot, spider projectile. That should just do everything. The same way it worked for those others, so why is this then crashing? I think it was something like, oh yeah, no, that kind of makes sense maybe. No, it doesn't really. It was crashing when I was playing with the twin stick character, so I was kind of thinking maybe our get player character is fucking up, but it still should. No, it definitely does fuck up there. Okay, no, that makes sense. Never mind. Get player character doesn't work with the twin stick shooter character because it's not a character, it's a pawn. So I guess technically we should make this get player pawn just to be sure. Does that change anything? I don't think that really changes anything, to be honest, so we can just do that. Yeah. And that's why you never use a extension of a class until you need it. So let's just like recompile it in real quick. And then I guess what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of play through casually. Well, at this point, can I even like casually play this game is a good question. And see what this feels like in like more or less actual gameplay scenarios rather than spawning in a few enemies to test. Which will also surely get us a lot of bugs. But we'll figure it out as they come up. Alright. I don't think we need to open up any like blueprints here. I think we just go into a persistent world and we start playing. Which also, it's been a while since I've shown the new tutorial areas, so anybody who's been tuning in regularly but hasn't maybe like seen that specific video, the tutorial area has gotten like a pretty massive upgrade and it's also just like straight up not finished. Nothing in the game is finished, obviously, but you kind of get what I mean, right? So yeah, we went back to block meshes instead of actual meshes for this for the time being, because I'm obviously like blocking it out again. But we have like an actual tutorial now with like tutorial screens telling you, hey, this is what this does, this is what this does. We have like, you get a potion. I have instant swap inventory buttons in the chest now, because I saw people in the playtest like having difficulty with having to do this with the chests, which is like 1000% fair. So just like these instant swap inventory buttons are nice quality of life. Scale 9, welcome in the Twitch chat, man. Hey, how are you doing with the game? Well, we're actually doing pretty good. I just finished implementing a new perfect dodge mechanic, and we're just gonna like kind of run through and test it out, to be honest. Which gives us an opportunity to like run through my like revised, very forced, but what do you know, inventory. So what I didn't show there, oh, we also have an issue with double swords. That sometimes happens. Unreal's weird. What I didn't show there, we might as well just like go through and show it again real quick. That door's also not supposed to be open until you have all the keys. And if we're doing this anyway, I'm sorry for like restarting a billion times, but I want to switch here and like delete the secondary sword. Sometimes the child actor component just kind of does that and it actually like physically spawns in a secondary actor, which is very annoying. Anyway, oh, that's interesting. If we do that mid-dash, it kind of messes up, eh? Okay, cool. Probably should also make a quit button for that UI, I just realized. No, you can do that mid-dash, okay, that's weird. So there's a wall here that just doesn't let you progress until you've stood on the checkpoint, at which point the wall disappears. And 1000% the reason that that's the case is that if you die without having touched the checkpoint in the game crashes. I'm such a good programmer. Because when you die, it tries to reload the last level that you touched the checkpoint in. But if that doesn't have a value, it doesn't reload anything, and then it tries to find a checkpoint that doesn't exist, and tries to do stuff with that, because it assumes that there's loaded level with a checkpoint in it, because you obviously are going to send back to the last time you touch a checkpoint. But if you have never touched a checkpoint, you get the point. So I was like, I can fix that code, or I can just force you to touch the checkpoint before you find an enemy. And that sounded a lot easier. So obviously it's going to be a little bit less obvious than it is here in the like finalized version of this, but that's kind of like the whole deal there. So because somebody in the playtest actually died to the first enemy before the checkpoint, which I did not expect to be like a thing that people would do. But yet here we are. Man, I should really get those animations like not flipping through walls at some point. And also make an animation for those quick kills, because it's like really abrupt at the moment, I would say. I would call it a feature. Everything is a feature if it means that I don't have to fix it, essentially. Why are the other two not attacking me? Dude. Oh, do I not have a nav mash here? I think I just do not have a nav mash here. That's funny. Anyway, so yeah, this does make all this a lot easier, doesn't it? It's still kind of like tricky to dodge them sometimes. It's not too easy, probably, aside from being able to do that, which is... It needs to feel more satisfying. Now it feels very anticlimactic to just like disintegrate them without doing anything. But adding some more particles, sound effects maybe, will hopefully remedy that a little bit. This is supposed to be spawning enemies. Dudes, where are you? What the fuck? Are they not assigned to the spawner? They might not be assigned to the spawner. I was trying to test out the combat. Well, fuck me, I guess. You can see that this room still has all the meshes intact, because everything is like severely messed up about it. It's going to get replaced in its entirety. The reason that I'm messing this up is because the directionality is messed up. Because I rotated the level as a whole, which rotated the camera within the level. Which is messing up the control rotation for these things. Which is now messing up this puzzle for me. You know what we're going to do? We're going to just skip this puzzle. I don't know why I'm trying to actually do the puzzle, because the door is open anyway. I just want to like run through. This as well, you can clearly tell. I just copied over the level that already existed here. Haven't really changed too much about it. Aside from obviously putting the door up there in a high place. Because I needed a reason for the door to be in a high place at the other side. Because I don't want to be able to like run through this the other way around. So yeah, we can only pick up one of them. It also makes it a little bit more reasonable that people will find this extra potion, which is probably good. But yeah, I want people to like come out of here, but I don't want them to be able to like go through back that way. So yeah, that's why. You need to get all 3 keys to open this door usually, but I haven't put in a wall yet. So we can just go into the boss fight. Which also still has all of the assets. And janky animations, because I made them. And there's a lot of things I am. A good animator is not one of them. But after this, everything should just be the way it's always been. So we can actually like properly test the combat, because enemies will actually spawn, which will be nice. And I can literally probably beat this boss fight in my sleep at this point. That's a little annoying that you just switched states when you were about to like enter your defense bar on me, but we'll live. Is the game loud? The game seems a little loud, doesn't it? Oh, holy shit, okay. I said I can beat this boss in my sleep. He also is like straight up not hitting me, so turns out that statement might still be true. I kind of forgot that he does that, which is insane because I programmed him to do that. He really does miss me a lot, doesn't he? Like, there's a very lenient fight. But I thought that in the past as well, and then I made him harder, and then all the people that tested it, which was like 4 people at the time, could just not beat him to save their life, literally. Well, not literally, I didn't kill them. So I need to pay attention to the fact that I have fought this fight about 100 times at this point. Hey, why are you not moving? I don't care. It's probably not properly like ending the ability or some shit, but yeah. Oh. Well, that's special. Oh, yeah, the cutscene stuff, I think, is like, there's an issue with like relative location because I changed the location of these things or something. That's fixable. That's not a big deal. Also, like, super not the point right now. So we already just had a save game in this place, to be fair. Do you ever feel bored of working on the same game for a while? Yeah. Do you feel the urge to start something new and fresh, cool ideas pop into your head? That's where like game jams can come in really nice. Just like doing something else for a week and then being able to like jump back in with like a fresh look at things. The way that I personally also remedy that is that my game has a structure of like 6 dungeons, 7 if you include the tutorial. And in every single one of those dungeons, I place something that I refer to as like a pace breaker, which is just like what is... It came kind of from the idea of what is going to help me improve the feeling of my combat. And one of the answers to that was have the game contain stuff that's not combat. Because if you can do something else that's not combat for a while, the combat is going to like not bore you as much. Is my idea anyway. I don't know if that's going to hold up. Hopefully it will. But that's the basic premise of like my theory on that. So every single dungeon is going to have a pace breaker, and that's essentially going to be just one level that's going to be an entirely different genre. The first of one I'm working on in parallel to like all what we're doing here is a twin stick shooter level. So it's just going to be a level where you play a twin stick shooter, a very easy and simple one. I don't want to be like super difficult about that and have people get stuck on genres that they're not super familiar with if they're playing this to play a hack and slash RPG, of course. But just something to have something else to do for like 5 minutes. It also helps me as a developer because I get to make a twin stick shooter, which is a lot of fun to just like make something else in like a like microcosm of game development. Because I effectively do get to make like a whole extra like small game, but it's still productive toward the like actual game that I'm making. I'm also gonna, well, let's go through this route. Why not? Yeah, so something is weird about those zombie attacks. They're just not happening. 10-day game jam is a lot of time. Yeah, so the game jam that I'm going to be hosting in the like start of May is going to be 10 days long. I was going to make it a week, but somebody in the comments pointed out that making it 10 days is probably a good idea because that encapsulates 2 full weekends. And I personally like don't love like 3-day or 2-day game jams because in my opinion it's just like not enough time to actually like do anything like worthwhile. Doesn't leave like time for experimentation. It makes people like overwork themselves and crunch themselves half to death with like pushing themselves too hard. I want people to be able to like take their time, and if they then like over the course of like 10 full days still end up like crunching themselves out, well at some point like that's their problem and not mine, of course. But I think 2D game jams, or 2-day, not 2D. don't know why I keep saying 2D. 2D game jams are just like a little rough in that regard. I need to get the fuck out of here, or at least I need to like heal. Yeah. So that's why I went for a 10-day game jam, because it like encapsulates 2 full weekends, allowing people to like, if they only have the weekends, at least still have like 4 days of development time on the project, which should help a lot. Yeah, so we'll look at the zombie in a moment, by the way. These guys are insane with how much damage they are dealing. The zombie is not attacking me. I don't know why. So yeah, if you're like solo, 10 days is like straight up like needed to make anything reasonable. I agree. I need to invest some of my levels, because I just realized I beat a boss fight, so everything is just like double their stats. Which is why everything is absolutely kicking my ass right now. I have to finish a graduation project in mid-June. That's coming up quick, man. Good luck with whatever you're doing. It's I remember like having to work on like my graduation project, which I went to film school, not like game development. So it's a little different, but it was fucking like I had half a year, and the first 5 months of which were like, oh yeah, fun, we're doing stuff, and the last month of which was, hey, I can't sleep anymore. Because otherwise this is not getting finished. I was very bad at planning stuff. Even worse than I am right now. Can you believe it? Well, I'm actually like pretty good at keeping a schedule these days, but yeah, no, that's rough, man. Hopefully you do like good on it. And who knows, maybe if you like stick around and watch like stuff and streams, we'll do another one next year. I fully expect... Oh, it's a die there. But I fully expect this one to be like a lot of fun, and to do another one next year around the same time. Maybe we won't, but I hope we will. Just a bachelor's degree in computer engineering, not game dev school or something. Okay, that's still like probably more intense than whatever the fuck I did, to be 1000% honest with you. So still wishing you all the best luck on that. Okay, so what are we gonna do? We have 300 souls. Add some defense. We need some defense, man. And then I guess piercing and strength. I skipped out on like a lot of enemies there, which doesn't help. So I think I've got a plan. We're gonna set up our crafting here. Imagine if game studios did a game jam with like 5 to 10 people for like 5 days. Just to do something different, like every 6 months a game jam. I think like a lot of small teams do that. So yeah, the healing spell is probably a good thing to have, and then I like mind spray as well. So set up these in case of emergency. Our basic response is going to be just this, and then mind spray will be there. So that should allow us to be a little bit more... there's also light baking issues, just ignore all that for the moment. That should allow us to be a little bit better equipped to like deal with stuff. I say as I get absolutely destroyed. There we go. It is really overpowered, to be fair. I think we need to power it down a little bit, because it is kind of insane. It feels amazing, but it is kind of insane. But it does make you like actually interact with the enemy's behavior a little bit more than just, hey, press X until they like die. Which hopefully will also make people more cautious and get hit less as a result, which that is like the ultimate goal here. Need to heal. But I also can't spam it because it still does take MP to like dodge. Yeah, so the navigation for these just straight up doesn't work for some reason in a lot of cases. Let's put down a couple of mines. Follow me, follow me, die. This is actually the first time that I'm properly like using my own mine ability within the game, and I must say, it kind of works like I wanted it to. For anybody who's played Kingdom Hearts in the past, don't worry, I'm not going to make a homing mile like mine attack, because yes, I too have played both Birth by Sleep and Dream Drop Distance, and know that that is probably a bad idea. Do you have any idea? Well, you probably do, because you have it due in like 2 months, but can you share anything about what your like graduation project like is about? Because it does sound like something to be distracted by for me right now, and God knows that I need that. Okay, you need to die like yesterday. You see, that already requires a pretty perfect dodge, so that's why I didn't want to have the perfect dodge like boost on that ability as well. Because at that point it's not a bonus, at that point it's just literally required. So why would you like extra reward somebody for something that they're supposed to do anyway? The like quick kill quick time event is coming in clutch, I'm not gonna lie. So much that I don't think that I would have survived this if I didn't use that. So, well, I do still have like 1 more heal, and then I had some potions. So I probably would have been fine, but it's still... I got 600 experience from that, so let's use that immediately in my level up screen. I think I could use a little bit of health. I don't think I really like was too low on mana at any point in that like at all. So I think some more piercing damage would probably be nice, and then maybe I'm gonna go for even more health, and then just keep the rest. I think maybe we can try to see. I don't think I can buy everything that I need for the tornado spell, can I? Yeah, only health and magic essence, so I don't have anything to like craft at the moment. Yeah, so I think we just kind of move on. I always get mixed up in my own fucking level design as to where to go next, so that definitely needs to like, be fixed. I think this is where we go next. But we're testing combat related stuff, and this is most of the combat anyway, so we might just like stop testing because it's fun just running around with as much work as we've done on this. So for this is just going toward the final boss. Well, not the final boss, because the final boss doesn't exist yet, but the boss of this dungeon. Yeah, so, see, with a little bit more piercing damage, getting that slowdown effect is actually, like, super. It's super kind of fucked, and I do think it's a little too overpowered with the... ranged specifically, because with the ranged attacks, it's just a bit too easy to, like, dodge into their direction. So I think we just need the range on those to be, like, super small. Like, it's 150 at the moment. I think going back to 100 is probably all that we need to do. Feels amazing though. I can't stop saying it. It feels fantastic. Especially against like these big boys, right? I guess the mines are like particularly effective against these as well, eh? Drops a bunch of items, bunch of souls. Should have dropped a bunch of souls. Well, I guess it dropped like 200 or something, right? I don't know. I do feel like, aside from maybe being slightly overpowered, it does make the combat encounters just a little bit more fun. And I honestly like don't feel like I'm constantly fishing for them. But I am a little bit more mindful about them. Which the question is that going to be the general experience that like other players have about them as well? Obviously there's also like a good chance that other people will be fishing for them, because they seem like they're probably like an objectively best strategy at the moment. But every game is going to have an objectively best strategy, right? So I don't think it's necessarily the point to like try to prevent that. It's just making that objectively best strategy not tedious and boring. Which, if you're going to be like fishing for this type of like superpower event, that might be tedious and boring. So I'm not necessarily saying that this is perfect in any stretch of the imagination, but I'll have to give it to a couple of people to like get a feel for and test to see if it ends up like actually sucking. Because if it's not fun, like if it actually takes away fun, I might just throw it all out. I might just need to tweak some of the parameters about it, like making some of the damage output a little different, or maybe making it a little shorter of a time, so it's a little bit more balanced or whatever. There's a lot of things that we can do there. Magnets. I entirely forgot that that was up there, I'm not gonna lie. I knew something was up there, I didn't remember that it was the magnet ability. Which I actually do quite like the magnet ability. Because again, it's another thing that I just straight up took from Kingdom Hearts 2, which, if I took it from Kingdom Hearts 2, there's a good chance that it's good stuff. So I don't know if at this point I am testing my game or just playing it. Which has to be a good sign, right? There's also a tornado spell somewhere in here, I believe. I need to check, because there was an issue with that at some point. Being able to just loot chests so easily with one button press does make me happy, though. So, yeah, it doesn't pick up the tornado spell for some reason when you pick up the world item. It's really weird. It didn't pick up the magnet spell either. Well, I need to replace both of those with chests anyway. I don't really want the spells to just be on the floor anymore. So it's not that big of a deal. But it's really weird that that doesn't work, because why wouldn't that work? I don't know. I do think that what we did here today is probably a pretty good like progression for the combat system. That said, I just tried to wall jump, as you might have noticed. Maybe you didn't notice that that's what I was trying to do, but that's what my brain was trying to do there. And that's because I completed Hollow Knight recently. And Hollow Knight kind of is linear until you get the wall jump, at which point it becomes very open, which is why a lot of people love that game. It makes me think that maybe I should implement a wall jump as well, but then I think about that for longer than half a second at a time, and I'm like, no, I don't think I will, because that'll literally break all of the platforming that I already have in place, which already is semi-broken at the best of times, if I'm like 1000% real with you. You know, I think I know part of the reason, and this is going to be really sad, but I think I realized part of the reason why this feels so much better than normal attacks, aside from the fact that you're just absolutely obliterating them with a onslaught of attacks that they just can't do anything against. It's because you don't see the animations anymore, you only see the visual effects. And the visual effects are kind of okay, because I didn't make those. The animations are kind of ass, because I made those. Anyway, yeah, I think we did a pretty good little bit of testing here. I mean, I can level up a little bit more, I guess. Some more strength, some more piercing, definitely some more defense. And the inventory is getting pretty full, so let's add some inventory space. Right? Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Just gonna save that here. Looking at that dungeon, man. Gonna need to playtest that as well, because there's a lot going on here. There's also a wall sticking through that didn't unload. What? What the fuck? Ignore that for the time being. Apparently going into the central area there doesn't unload something. What actually did happen there? Are they still loaded now? Oh, these are just in the persistent level. Huh. They must be, surely, right? I guess we can just see if we go back like this. Yeah, they're in the persistent world. Okay, so that makes sense. I think we're going to leave it there for today. We did look pretty good, all things considered. So, we have a perfect dodge mechanic, which is going to likely need a little bit of tweaking. But so far it seems to work. I'm sure that it's exploitable in some way, and I'm sure that somebody is going to figure it out and make my life a living hell as a result of it. But for now, I'm pretty happy with it until then. So, thanks to everybody for hanging out, giving me some ideas, and helping me out with not going entirely insane while doing this. Which is usually a bigger deal. Today was pretty easy what we did. On Thursday, we'll be back, same time, as usual, and we probably will actually be like UV unwrapping and then maybe rigging the low poly version of the next boss, is what I'm thinking. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow, depending on how busy I am with work. I might just do that during the day, and we'll do like some substance painter action on stream on Thursday instead. Kind of, again, depends on what we're doing. I just kind of got this idea like 2 days ago to like do this perfect dodge. I was like, this is perfect stuff to do on stream. So that's why I kind of like changed plans on stream for today. But we're going to be back on track with the red dungeon boss in the next stream. Unless there's another thing that I come up with tomorrow that fits that stream better. I don't know, man. I'm going to have a very good night of sleep because I'm tired.